Welcome to Ride to Success. Today I had the pleasure of chatting with co-owner and co-founder of AG Insurance Soudal Women's Pro Team. In the world of professional cycling, few names resonate with the impact and dedication to growth and equality as Natascha Knaven-den Ouden. Her journey from an athlete to the forefront of women's cycling advocacy and team management is a testament to her unwavering commitment to the sport. Her story reveals the depth of her experience and vision for the future of women's cycling. But before we get into the podcast, ladies and gentlemen, please subscribe and follow Ride to Success podcast. It helps us to grow immensely, and I'll be forever grateful. Thanks. Now back to the podcast. Welcome to Ride to Success. Natascha, it's an honor to having you here. You are the brains, the motivator, and the passion behind AG Insurance Soudal Women's Cycling Team. I have the privilege to have this conversation with you, and I want to start it by reading a quote that you shared on social media that I think is quite relevant for the conversation. It reads like this: when you are chasing a vision and working hard to reach a goal, nothing refreshes you as much as progress. How does this quote inspires you? Let's start with that, because I think that will give us a bit more understanding of you as a person.
Yeah, me as a person, sometimes people don't understand me quite well. Once a journalist said to me, your vision is 5 years ahead of how a lot of people think, and they probably don't understand you in how you think. I think very wide. I think, I don't know, because it's just me. But when you have a vision like in women's cycling, you have to build from the base. You don't build a house by starting with the roof, and that's the thing. What's now a bit is happening. A lot of money is put in the top of women's cycling, but the thing is that the possibility is there that you tear the roof from the rest, and then in a few years' time you don't have a wider top level riders, but just the same as now. Yeah. It's just 5-6 top level riders, and the rest doesn't come because you don't invest in the base. And my vision is exactly that. So put money in the base, create a wider range of top level riders for the future, for 5-6 years, in 5-6 years time, and then you build women's cycling from the ground, and it's more sustainable also to invest in the base and in the walls, and not only in the roof. But when you see the progress of that and see other teams also investing in development teams, and more UCI is seeing that's really what's necessary now. So more and more U23 level races only accessible for U23 riders. It's really necessary to build up women's cycling from the base and make it sustainable. Yeah, and that's that quote what I shared. It refreshes you, because it's also letting you see that maybe you are right in your vision.
Yeah, well, that's the sign of a leader. It's when you have a vision, not necessarily everyone will understand it, but you know deep in yourself that that's where things need to go. That's where you want to go, and you try to bring people along with you. So I think that's the quality of leadership.
Thank you.
So obviously there is something here that we need to take a few years back to better understand how, kind of this vision. You were a professional athlete in your youth. So can you share a bit of your earliest memories of cycling and what inspired you to pursue it professionally?
When I was young, I was 9 years old, and I always was supporting my little brother. He was exactly 1 year younger than me, and I always asked my father, can I do that too? So no, it's nothing for girls, you know. So, and back in that time, it was still in a competition that you don't always have to compete every week. So one day he was ill, and I thought, he ill, he is ill, then I can compete. So my mom said, okay, you will go. And there were 48 riders at the start line. It was a cross race. It was raining, and I never forget that, because I became ninth, and I was lost for the sport, you know. Not lost for the sport, but I lost my heart to the sport.
You like that?
My dad bought a bike for me, and then the rest is history. Yeah.
Do you want to perhaps give us a bit of the highlights of your career as an athlete? Because I think there is. I want to be able to, for the people listening, to be able to understand that the depth of career you had, and also the comparison between then and now.
Yeah. Back then it was not. You didn't earn money from it, you know. So I always say maybe the passion with women cyclists is bigger or higher, or how do you call it, than with men cyclists, because they really love the sport with earning nothing, you know. I was a member of the first commercial team from Monique Knoll. Back then, in that time, she was the Olympic champion, and she made a commercial team. What was financed by a candy store. Yamin was a franchise. Was really good. And before that, I was a 4 times cyclocross champion, national elite cyclocross champion. And within my junior ranks, I did also track cycling and multiple national titles, mostly on pursuit, and a silver medal on the Worlds. There I met my husband in Moscow, really long time ago, 5 years. So that's a really long time ago. But back in that time, what I said, you didn't earn money from it, but it was progressing. I quit cycling quite early, on my 25th, because I was thinking back then, I don't earn money with cycling, and I think I'm better step in my another career, like a physiotherapist.
So I think there's clearly a difference between then and now. Now, my question is, do you think that the sport for women in cycling has evolved enough from your time you were an athlete to now? Do you think the curve of development has been enough, or you think more needs to be done?
I think it's enough, because it's step by step, and I really think when you look at women's cycling particularly, women's cycling is there where men's cycling was 20 years ago, and we can't go to the same level in 4 or 5 years time, because it's not possible, because there are not enough companies who want to invest in women's cycling now. It has to go step by step, but don't forget to invest in the base, because otherwise we have no cyclists anymore. That's a really important thing. And I really think that we don't have to focus on the equality between men and women. And I think the focus is too harsh on that, because there is no equality in women's cycling itself. And we first have to work on that, because when we still have a Tour de France avec Zwift, Femme avec Zwift, with riders who earn tons of euros, and they are competing with riders who earn 250 euros a month and have to have a job next to it. We have to put money in that.
Right.
And then I come back to what I always say, we have to invest in the base to grow women's cycling and to have in 5-6 years time a wider base on top level riders, so you have equality in women's cycling itself.
Okay.
So don't
That's
focus on
interesting.
paying
Mhm.
equal pay. I know that we have the same pain as men on the bike. I know that, but don't compare us with men. We have to create our own legacy, you know.
Definitely.
And
So
maybe,
it's
maybe
sorry.
sorry if I interrupt, because now
No, no.
now I'm on a roll.
Yeah, go for
I
it.
really think that it's also time. I don't know how, but it's also time to look in another business model, because women's cycling now is growing so fast. But maybe we don't want to do the same mistakes as men's cycling has. So to be so dependent on financial income from companies, maybe we as women's cycling have to do it different now with another business model.
Yeah, that's a very good point, because there is with the if you look at other examples of football, for instance, where there is a call for women's football to have a different business model, and there are strides being made towards changing, not and looking as well at men's football and try not to repeat those same mistakes. And the same, I think, can be applied to women's cycling. It's quite interesting what you said about the fact that there first needs to be equality at the top level, where you can't have professional riders competing against each other, but they have wildly different salaries. That's or it puts it at a greater disadvantage. Well, teams that have much lower budgets, which it's kind of it's impossible to be competitive, I guess, if you don't have that budget, if you don't have the foundations, like you said, to do so. So I want to pick up on that topic of the development, and because you are quite an advocate of kind of your vision of promoting cycling from the ground up and building it up. So what have been the most significant barriers to that you have encountered, and to put in place grassroots initiatives, activities that can raise the profile of women's cycling and encourage more women into the sport?
Yeah, I think we come back to that. I think that's a financial part. I think a lot of women. I had a talk this week with someone, and he said, "Yeah, but when you earn like 2,500 euros a month, like a cyclist, that's it. You don't build anything, and you fold your whole social life around that bike. Is it worthy to do that?"
Yeah.
You know, I think a lot of people think like that.
So, okay, so that seems to be a kind of a disparity between what can be achieved if there's no investment. So how would you attract investment? How do you bring brands towards to invest in women's cycling at a lower level than the professional?
Yeah, I think firstly, broadcasting is key in this, because you have to have exposure in those smaller races. You know, then it's interesting for companies to invest in smaller development teams, or just smaller UCI teams who also develop talent, because that's the base in women's cycling. Those continental teams are really important for the development and giving ground to talent, you know. But when you see World Tour teams get a starting fee, continental teams mostly don't. But in the past years, when we focus on equal start or equal prize money, you know, then organizations don't have the money anymore to pay the starting fees. And who are the victims of that? Those are the small continental teams. So there's really a lot to have to be done, and it's really in all layers of the sport. There has to be something to be done, and I come back again. There has to be equality in the sports in itself, not between men and women. We have to step away from that to focus on that, because it's stupid. We are not ready. Women's sports not ready. All women's cycling is not like that. Maybe other sports. Yeah.
So the equality in women's sport is, are we talking about equal pay? Are we talking about a base payment, or for all teams, for all athletes, that a threshold that you cannot pay less than this amount? Is that what you alluding to?
Yeah, but that's the difficulty, because when I say that, we have to have companies that invest in the smaller teams, but it's not interesting because there's no broadcasting for the races that those teams race. You know, it's more interesting to invest in like an SD Works or in a Visma Lease bike, or you know, like the bigger teams with a with the big names, because then you are sure to get the exposure. But that's the circle we are in. So that's the difficulty we are in. We have to have companies that believe in building women's cycling from ground up, and not only focusing on that exposure. But that's the difficulty, because they are also looking at the numbers. So broadcasting is key for this.
Exposure to the sport, so that you can attract more people to watch it, and young girls to look up to role models and to be inspired as well. To you know, I can do this, and then it kind of starts to be as grow momentum as it is already, but even more so. For the people listening, you have started AG Insurance Soudal Women's Cycling Team. How are you addressing these inequality in women's cycling?
Yeah, first of all, there's a bit of a history. In 2018, we started with a U19 team because we saw the gap between juniors coming to the elite ranks and the top elite riders. We saw the gap increasing rapidly, and we wanted to give talented junior riders already the professional environments, so to get a bit of to get used to it, but also that the gap would be a bit less big, you know. So after that, in 2019, we started with a U23 team, and we wanted to learn them step by step professional racing on their own pace. So developing on their own pace, on their own level. So yeah, when we see which riders we had Charlotte Kool, we had Misha Bredewold, we had Shari Bossuit, Nienke Vinke, Nienke Veenhoven. We had a lot of, and they went to other structures. That's also okay, but we gave them something in their development already. And I think that is what's now happening with more and more World Tour teams having a development team, so they also can exchange riders and let them taste from level higher. That's a really good what's happening now, and that's also a bit what we pushed to the outside to show other teams how it should be, how women's cycling should be built step by step, because then that's the only way you build a wider range of top level riders. Otherwise you lose such loads of talents, because they get demotivated, because when you are good at junior level, winning races, and you step up to elite level, and it's only by thinking, oh, I hope I can finish, it's really demotivating.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you need that kind of ladder, like a progress, a route to the elite level that is just, rather than just doing a big leap from junior, from under 18 to elite. So that's kind of allows the athlete to grow as a person, but in capacity as well. It's so important, and you see that across many other sports where there is a clear, defined route towards elite level.
Yeah, we work together with Team Ritger, a Danish junior team. And yeah, there are a lot of U23 teams who from the United States and from Australia who are contacting contact me to have calls, to talk with each other, and to exchange experiences, and I think that's really good, because then you grow women's cycling not only in Europe but also wider, because it's not possible, what they always say, it's not possible that there's no talent in other countries than only in European countries. We have
you have to create the platform for people to be open to explore it.
That's
I think
also
with
why I gave Kim Lecour, she's a Mauritian rider. Now Mauritius, what kind of cycling country, that's nothing for cycling, but she's really a big talent, and I gave her a platform. But now we have in our junior ranks also a Greek girl. She's from Rhodos. Yeah, she's really a big talent, and I got her in our loop, so she's going to race with us. Yeah, that's a talent what I saw, which I saw racing in the EOF, the European Youth Olympic Games, and I said, that's a really good. She's good on the bike. She's good in the bike handling, but I don't know that she knows how to race, and that's what you see then. But she's very strong, so I like that kind of challenges to look for talent. Not only in the Belgian, Dutch, or
of course, yes, there's more opportunities as well if you look outside. There's also an important aspect, now that you're talking about developing talent, there's also an important aspect that I think we need to talk about, which is the mentorship and the education side of working with under 19, under 23 athletes. How have you been working with these young women to make them help them grow as well-rounded individuals through mentorship and through educating? How have you been doing that?
Yeah, what we really point out for them is that school is really, really important. Education behind cycling, or next to cycling, is really important, because what I tell our riders every time, you aren't a cyclist, you do cycling. And that's really a big difference, because when you identify with what you're doing, you will throw yourself in the black hole after you finish, because then it's the question, who am I when I'm not a cyclist anymore? So educate yourself.
Interesting.
Explore your other talents. It's not only cycling in this world, and that's what we tell them. And keep calm. Don't focus on being a professional cyclist. It will come. It will come at the time that it's right for you. And what we next to that is educate them in mental strength, educate them in fueling themselves during training, explain how to take care of themselves, hygienic also, on the pelvic floor with saddle soreness. We are quite new in that. I saw that little Trek followed us with our pelvic floor professor. So that's really new in this, especially in women's cycling. And I think we are really doing good things in that for our young girls. And we already see the difference how our U23 riders go around with fueling themselves in comparison to the older elite riders, because they didn't get it. They are in their U23s or U90s, and we educate them already now that it's so important.
I think it's important to point out that you are a cycling family. You have 4 daughters that in some way and that are involved in cycling. As the fact that you have been raising, and you've raised 4 daughters that are now have different involvements in cycling, has that changed your mindset? Has that impacted the way you see a need to address the inequality in women's cycling?
No, I don't know if it's especially through the kids. The project exists through our children, not for our children, because we saw what was happening in women's cycling, because they were racing at the youth levels, and then we saw the problem. Because I don't know if we were involved in women's cycling when we only had boys, So it's not for the kids that we build this project, but it's true. Them. So that's also a big difference to point out. And when I raised my kids, I always said the same to them. So you aren't a cyclist, you are doing this, and if you don't like it anymore, just quit and start something different to do, So my eldest quit last year. She decided that she's not. She has the capabilities, she has the talent, but she hasn't have the mindset to be a top professional cyclist. So she's going to be a prosecutor. That's also okay, I think. Yeah. And the second eldest, she quit cycling after her accident that she had in the beginning of last year, a training accident when she was also in a coma. For us, that was also really a big shock, and the biggest fear from our parents, to get a phone call from a police officer tell you that your daughter is with a trauma helicopter to a special brain hospital. But she misses cycling, so she said to me last week, I think I'm going to start again. So yeah, that's also okay. Yeah, we leave them because all of them have different talents, and that's exactly the same that I point out to my other riders. You have different talents. So most of our riders are having a university degree or studying on a university or applied sciences. So I think that's really important.
Definitely, yeah. So I think helps the person to grow in a more well-rounded and allows them to see the potential that they have outside just cycling. So they don't have necessarily blinders on, but can see the potential for themselves. It's it's kind of interesting that kind of your journey also informed is as a parent is informing how you see the pitfalls of the development, the progression that there is at the moment in women's cycling. From what you told me, does women's cycling currently, in your perspective, does it address the broader community needs of girls wanting to access the sport? Does women's cycling do that at the moment, do you think?
Yeah, in Belgium for sure. The amount of license holders is four times bigger, with Lotte Kopecky being world champion than before, I read. And I also think that Tour de France Femme avec Swift is a big major thing that made it that made young girls more aware. I want this too. It's not only for the boys with the Pogacar and it's also now for those little Demi Vollerings.
Yes.
Who can dream now from a career as doing professional cycling. Yeah, I really think that's these are major events. Yeah, who made that? Yeah.
These events definitely. Well, the scale of them and the impact help to for young girls to see the potential in it. But with that, you also need to create the platform, the roadmap, the steps that allow them to see that, okay, so I want to try riding my bike, because not every girl will know how to ride a bike. And this starts with children. You have to create the facilities, the ideal support for that to grow, so that they can see that there is a progression route.
Absolutely. That's also what we do, of course. In 2017, we started a foundation to create events for youth cycling, to make children in small villages more aware what is possible in cycling. So we created there small races with real cyclists, from the years 8 till 14. And then we also started to create in that small races for children in that villages on their own bike, just a normal school bike, to race. But around that, see children from their own age racing on real cycling, real race bikes, So then you inspire children also to go on a bike, because COVID
that's
was
very important.
COVID was a big thing in this to decrease all the license holders, and I hope it will increase again in a few years' time.
When you mean license holders, you mean registered athletes?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. That's very.
Yeah, in the range of years 8 till 14. Because,
okay. That's very important. So in terms of the, obviously that is quite difficult to, from what you said, to attract sponsorship to the because like their brands are not necessarily are seeing the immediate rewards that through that it comes with it. Do you have a solution for this problem? Have you thought of how brands can how can women teams attract brands, or how businesses can support women cycling teams?
Yeah. When you see Wasserman is doing a lot of research to that, and I saw a research from them that 45% 54% of the fans from women's cycling are more aware of the brand that puts his or her name on women's sport, and is more likable to also purchase that from that brand, and that's, I thought, in comparison to men's fans from men's cycling, I think it's a difference from, I think, 25% or something. So that's big. So, and I also read that when you put €1 in women's sports, it gets you €7 rewarded.
Wow.
So I don't know why it's going so that part so slowly for the base of the women's sport, but what I said earlier, broadcasting is a big major step in that. broadcasting of the smaller races.
Yeah, that's. I mean, if you get 7 euros out of every euro invested into cycling, well, that's massive. That's a huge return on investment. It makes you wonder why are brands are not doing more, or is this something that perhaps the organizations that support sort of the state organizations, the UCI, is this also on them to do more, to make organizations broadcast the women racing at lower leagues, at lower levels? That's what I meant. Is this something that also it needs to be kind of a convergence of the regulatory bodies of cycling, the teams themselves, trying to work together towards making broadcasters, for instance, see the potential?
Yeah, I think so. Because we can't do it alone, And now I see a lot of organizations, or for example, Leidal Koersen should be the women's version of E3, Saxo E3 Prijs. And it's cancelled because they wanted to be World Tour. But it's such an important race, and a really difficult race, because there's a lot of altitude meters in it. And now it's cancelled because they wanted to be World Tour. Why? Because we won last year with one of our Devo riders, who won from 4 World Tour riders from the same team. It was a bit like the Omloop het Nieuwsblad, Ian Stannard with 4 Quickstep riders. Also, the DS in the car, because Sebas Knaven was in the car for Ian Stannard and now for Julia Kopecki from our team. So it was the same tactics. But besides that, it's such a beautiful race. Why canceling it? Because it's about costs, but when you stay 1.2 or 1.1, you are accessible for a lot of smaller teams. It costs less money, and you really help to develop women's cycling. And it's also a bit like the organizations have to understand that we need those kind of races for those smaller teams. This is an example for what's happening in women's cycling. All those organizations want to be 1 Pro or World Tour. Just stay 1.2 or 1.1, because
but I think
need that.
It does make you think that perhaps I'm only it is only my opinion, I'm only guessing here, but it suggests that perhaps those organizations, they are looking for the World Tour because they see that's where the money is. So they are trying to go to that level, to try and also get some kind of profit out of it, which then obviously leaves development teams, lower league teams in more difficulty, because they don't have a place to shine, to develop.
Now, when you create a World Tour race, you have to also have the World Tour prize money. Then it's prize money, so you have to raise more money. So it's more difficult to organize it eventually. But when organizers understand that with a 1.1 or 1.2 race, you really create the next future stars, that you can say in 3 years' time, when that rider won your race and now is winning Tour of Flanders, sorry, you can also say, 3 years ago she won with us. We create the next future stars, or we help the next future stars to race on a lower level and develop on their own pace and race with their own level.
We're talking just racing, I just wanted now that is there a race for development teams for under 23 or under 19 that is key in the sort of the women's racing calendar to help, like, to where you can see, like, find out the next talent? Is there like a key group of races or one race there where there is clear, where you can see clear talent?
Yeah, in Czech Republic we have 2 races there, Krasia Orlova and Tour Féminin. That's not French; it's in Czech Republic, and these are races where it's a 2.2, I think, and there you can see talent because they are racing from the same level to each other, with each other, and yeah, these are 2 races where I look at, and it's where talent can be spotted.
Okay. I wanted to return to this, to the quote that I said at the beginning, which is when you obviously are seeing progression in the women's cycling. And what goals and aspirations do you have for, as you said, for cycling, but for the team that you created?
For cycling in general, for women's cycling in general, I hope that we have in the future the specialists. So we have it already a bit, like the sprinters, the climbers, but now we see that we have the same winners in Liège-Bastogne-Liège as in Tour of Flanders, for example. These are the same riders, and what I really want is that we have the specialists. So for the Flemish classics, the how do you go, the South of Belgium classics, like Liège and Flèche Wallonne. But then also for the stage races like the Tour de France, Avec Zwift. That's what you see in cycling. That's really a difference, you know.
Yeah, you mentioned that that women's cycling doesn't need to have the same business model as the men's teams, the band cycling teams. Yeah. Do you have a different option? Do you have a vision how that could be different from the men's side?
No, I don't know. I don't know how. It's just a thought, because I think it has to be different, because you see the struggles in men's cycling. So I really think that women's cycling, but let us look at other sports, how they do it. Yes. Like in basketball, like in look at in America, how they promote women's sports, not only cycling, but because women's sports is growing rapidly, but women's cycling stays a bit behind. How is it possible? How does it come? Because I think it's a bit of the old-fashioned way to put money in it.
Is that related perhaps with the I mean, talking briefly about the men's side, is like they are reliant on sponsorship every year and they don't seem to have a model where they exist with as an entity without a sponsor. Perhaps that's where the change needs to happen, where teams can exist as an identity without having to rely on a sponsor, create that legacy that is not attached to a sponsor, perhaps.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I don't know how. Maybe you can help with that. Yeah, I'm not financial backgrounded enough to put that in words how it should be done, but I guess there are a lot of people who can tell me how to do it.
Yeah, I think Yeah, there is definitely potential. I think there needs to be as well willing. There needs to be the people wanting to do it. And like yourself, you already are being advocate of change. And so it starts, sometimes change is slow, but it doesn't mean that it's not happening. So
No,
it steps in the right direction.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So there's there is another interesting question that I think you mentioned your vision earlier on, your 5-year vision. What is your vision for the team that you helped create? How do you see the team in 5 years' time,
I see the team in
or
5.
10 or so? Or so?
Yeah. You know, everyone says, yeah, our team has to be in the top 5 of the best teams in the world in points, I think then. But everyone says that. Every team says that. We want to be in the best 5 teams. But you can think about it. What is the best, being the best team? Is that only in points, or in how many races you win? Or is the best team how you show yourself, how to be inspiring other people? Or, you know, so it's a big, yeah. Let me say, I want to, for my team to be the most inspiring team in the world.
It's a very worthy purpose,
For women in
and
general.
as one in general. I think that leads me very, very nicely onto my next question, because obviously the podcast is called Ride to Success, and you kind of already suggested to it, but I want to ask this question: what does success look like for you?
Success looks like, for what it looks like for me is that every year we can have some U23 riders who also come from our U19 team to be in a World Tour team and be the best version, and can be the best version of themselves. Is that with us? It's would be great, but is that an environment that suits them better? That's also great, you know, because it's not about me, it's not about my team, it's about women's cycling in general. And what I always say is that when we give our riders who were in our U19 project and go to another team, they have some kind of mentality given from us. And when they can implement something of that in another team, it works like an oil spot, you know. So I really hope that's going to happen. And what you say, as sometimes progression goes slow and development goes slow, but it goes somewhere. You know, you plant a seed somewhere and it starts growing. And
Yeah,
that's what I want. So yeah, it's also
that's a very
some,
good point.
yeah.
Sorry, go on.
Yeah, some riders don't fit with us anymore during the years. So I help them also to go to another team, and what suits them best, or I advise them. Yeah, maybe last year I had a rider in our development team, and I said to her, I really want to have you in our team, but I give you the time to also talk with other teams, because maybe your feeling is better with another team and you can get another program what suits you better than that you get with us, because it's about your development. It's not about us. It's about your development. And she chose for another team, and I'm happy for her. It's really okay. And
Yeah, that's very important. Yeah, I
yeah,
said that's very
yeah,
important.
yeah,
I mean, I think it's quite crucial as well to pin the fact that you mentioned as well, that you plant the seed and you can't expect it to collect the fruit immediately. You need
yeah,
to nurture it. You need to, well, to complete the metaphor, you need to water it, and
yeah,
nurture it so it grows and it blossoms. So it needs time. Time is essential. I think we come to conclusion to that conversation, but not yet. But I wanted to. There's a tradition that I started with the podcast, which is every guest leaves a question for the next. So the question that was left for you is the following: what was your experience in your life that shaped you the most profoundly?
What was the experience in your life that shaped you the most? Oh, that's a very deep question, I think, because the shaping, I think it's not one experience. It goes layer by layer, it's shaping you. It's like the same with clay. It's yeah, when you make something. Oh, that's a really big one. Okay, I'm being very vulnerable now. In 2014, I got a burnout, a really severe one. And maybe that's in my life the biggest thing that shaped me, because that gave me also the push in my back to do it different, and to experience things different. I think that, yeah.
Thanks for sharing. That's that's important to share as well, because people listening will I think will relate to that experience, being able to take stock of what you have achieved, and also understand that everyone has limitations and we need to see where we can address if we have a problem. And burning out is never easy to deal with, so I think it's important for you to share. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, absolutely, because that's also a thing what I give my riders with them, because in 2014 I had that then, but I knew where it was coming from, because it was coming from a top sports life, living on the edge, living on the border, going next to it, then you recuperate, and then again, and you do it in your normal working life also, because you think it's normal, and also saying, oh yes, I will do that, oh yes, I will do that, and then suddenly it's over. So I also explain that to my riders, and when you get feedback from me, I said it to one of my riders, it's not about you as a person, but it's what you are doing. So you can change that. You can make another choice to do it different. And, it's not criticism of, on the way, on you as a person, but it's feedback on what you're doing, what can be better, and then it's even better. So that's what I learned and shaped from 2014.
Very good. So now is your time to think of a question that you would like to leave to my next guests.
And I don't know who it is.
You don't know who it is, no.
What experience in your life shaped you to the person who you are now?
Okay. Thank you, Natascha. It has been a great conversation. There's a lot to take in, and there's a lot to learnings that people listening will be able to take from this.
Okay, thank you. No problem.
Wow, what a great conversation, Natascha. She's just an inspirational person. Her work really elevates the sport today and lays a foundation for a brighter and fairer future in women's cycling. I hope you learned a few things. I certainly did along the conversation. And make sure to tune in to my next podcast, where Natascha's question will be answered by my next guest. Until then, thanks for listening, and ride to success.